I was mopping a spotless hallway that didn't need it when a small hand bunched my sleeve. 10:58 p.m. 42nd floor of Skylark Tower, all glass and lemon polish, and the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts. And this little girl with a crooked ponytail whispered, "They're hurting my mom. She's dying." Which is the kind of sentence that burns itself into your bones, you know what I mean. I got her name. Maddie tucked her in the supply closet, with a promise and a code 2 knocks, and her name then pushed through the frosted doors into a room where 3 suits were turning. Elena Hart, the CEO, whose name was on half the building, into a problem they thought nobody would solve. One flashed a gun like a prop, and I moved without thinking. Wrist pin, disarm, skull to door frame. Second telegraphed a punch from another zip code. I stepped inside and folded him up. Third. Hesitated, and I let a table do the convincing. 30 seconds. Maybe floor, still lamp buzzing. Elena bleeding and stubborn. "Who are you?" she asked. And I said the only thing that felt safe, name's Eli. I clean floors, then pressed a cloth to her lip and called 911 while my heart counted down to sirens that always take longer than they should. The police arrived with radios and conclusions, saw a black janitor, a white executive, 3 unconscious men, and decided the math they wanted. ID and reasons and a confession I didn't have. I gave them camera angles, timestamps, the van. I'd clocked at 10:47 with no plates, and 3 passengers who left 5 minutes later in a hurry. They wrote down none of it. "You're coming with us," the older detective said, like it was a favor, and the cuffs went on with a familiarity. I hated when they led me out. I knocked twice on the closet and whispered. Maddie saw her eyes pointed toward the paramedics, now with her mom. She ran all knees and courage, and I let the elevator doors shut on the only thing that mattered that night. Interrogation rooms use a fluorescent bulb designed to make you doubt yourself. Detective Kincaid did the pacing. Alvarez did. The soft voice, the coffee tasted like a dare. They said the cameras showed me mopping the same spot for 15 minutes. I told them the floor dries uneven near the seam, and I wasn't interested in a lawsuit from a broken heel. They asked how a custodian dropped 3 armed men. I told them to pull the curb cams and stop pretending they didn't know how to request footage. Kincaid looked at me like certainty was a habit, and then the door opened, and a woman in a navy suit set a briefcase down with a click that sounded like authority. Sloan McKay, counsel for Mr. Grant. "This conversation is over," she said. "No bluster. Just paperwork," and we walked out into night air that felt like the world taking a breath again. At the hospital, Dr. Song. Priya Patel told Elena what we already suspected: Rohypnol in the blood panel timing that matched her last coffee. Somebody planned her silence. And Elena stared past the wall to a boardroom memory. I could see in her face 5 p.m. Glass table, Caleb Voss leaning back with a smile that never met his eyes, offering a $2 to $3 billion merger like a gift that came with a leash. She'd said no, he'd said, "You'll regret that." There are ways to make people see sense, and now those ways had names and bruises. Yeah, that happened. Morning found me and Sloan at a diner that smells like pancakes and night shift. She slid a thin folder across the Formica shell companies, with patriotic names and no office's invoices for executive protection services that lined up with headlines about unfortunate incidents. 15 years of pressure that never left fingerprints. I flipped pages and asked what she needed. She said 3 things: keep Elena and Maddie alive, provoke Voss into saying the quiet part on the record, build a package so clean the feds wouldn't need courage to use it. We make the right thing, the easy thing. I can staff protection, I said. Marco Ruiz owes me 2 favors and a pizza. I called him, and he didn't bother with hello, just how many. How quiet, I said. 4 for close detail, 2 for surveillance, public vantage points. Only, no cowboy nonsense, he said. Done. Back at the office, the phone rang. Sloan turned on a recorder in plain view. Because we play fair, Elena answered. Caleb did concerned friend voice crime in the city. Think of your daughter. Maybe reconsider, Elena said. We're recording. Caleb paused just long enough to taste his ego and then went for it. Be careful with accusations. And this custodian you've picked up, Eli, people in his position should know their place. I'd hate to see anyone hurt. Click dial tone. Sloan grinned like a gymnast landing a dismount. Arrogance is admissible more often than people think. That afternoon, his lawyers grabbed a temporary restraining order that banned me from Skylark Tower. Sloan fumed. I didn't. Distance is a tool. I said you don't have to be in the room to protect the people in it. We built a net that stayed legal. We watched from sidewalks and lobbies. Anyone can enter. We recorded calls with consent and a beep you could hear. We followed money with a whistleblower named Paige Lynn, who had been reconciling 2 sets of books and finally got tired of pretending one of them was normal. She handed over a thumb drive with fingers that shook. Sloan told her, seeing it now still counts. We leaked a sliver to a local reporter, not evidence, just the shape of a story. Bully picks the wrong target, city perks up like a dog that heard its name. Voss started dialing favors, a cop from the golf course, a judge he'd donated to a prosecutor who loved his Christmas parties. Every call he made painted himself into a smaller corner. Meanwhile, Marco's guys tailed the 3 suits who left Elena's office with headaches. We didn't touch them, didn't spook them, just watched them complain to a handler at a diner off Route 6 about hazard pay, while they said names near reflective glass. It was almost funny if you forgot the stakes. And then Channel 7 aired a teaser, $1 billion bully at 6. They rolled a taste of the audio Voss, hinting threats he thought were coded. The internet did what it does when it smells arrogance and harm. Within minutes, the U.S. attorney and the FBI called Sloan. She delivered a binder with tabs that made my old training smile, audio transcripts, vendor invoices with dates circled and matched to assaults. Voss's people had called random sworn statements from executives who finally felt safe to admit why they'd caved Dr. Patel's toxicology timing. Locking the plan to the coffee cup, an email where Paige's boss asked her to rebundle Q3 adjustments so they hit after the press cycle. At 9:15 the next morning, Caleb stepped into his 60th floor office thinking about espresso and found Kara pale as copy paper. Channel 7 on line 1, his lawyer and the elevator agents in the lobby. Special Agent Anika Morales came in with a warrant and a tone that did not require volume boxes, labeled drives, imaged phones bagged and out on the sidewalk. A camera caught the look. Every bully gets the first time gravity introduces itself. It wasn't an arrest yet, but the board didn't wait. They voted him out before lunch. Clients paused business like a throat clears. Before goodbye, a pension fund made a statement with more numbers than adjectives. He went on TV to say witch hunt and smear, and looked exactly like a man who'd practiced denial in the mirror. Then his assistant sat for a podcast and cried and said he thought certain people needed reminding where they belonged. You didn't need the rest. The charges came next, not glamorous, just necessary conspiracy, witness tampering, extortion, attempted assault, the kind of list that makes a man smaller on paper than he ever let himself feel in life. After that came the part people forget, the work hearings and filings, and waiting the unsexy grind of accountability. In the middle of all that, Elena offered me a job. Director of Protective Operations, 10 times the salary and coffee. That didn't taste like penance. I said yes, and told her it wasn't for the money. It was because I didn't like what this building almost became first week. We put in an anonymous hotline that skipped any boss who might be the problem. Moved night shift, parking to a lot. With lights that actually work. And a guard who walks trained supervisors on what retaliation looks like when it puts on a tie. Small things that tell the right people they matter, and the wrong people there watched. Caleb did time. Not the biblical kind, the spreadsheet kind. Prison library, cleaning detail. A mop in the hands of a man who used to talk about people knowing their place, maybe. The floor looked back at him, I don't know. 6 months after that night, I still swing by the hallway, where Maddie grabbed my sleeve just once a week, late mop in hand, to remember how much power hides in invisibility. If you aim it right, Detective Kincaid texted me out of nowhere, said, I'd been right about the van, then sent a second message. You still had means, motive, opportunity. People like certainty. Eli, we didn't. And he's not wrong, that certainty is comfortable. But comfort isn't the same as truth. The truth is we leaked to the press because we had to. We provoked a bully because his ego was a tool. We built a mirror and made him look. And if you're asking whether any of that makes us like him, the answer is no, because we kept it lawful, we kept it clean, and we built something better after. That's the difference between payback and protection, between fear and respect, between power that hoards and power that shields. That's my story, told in the voice of a guy who still tapes a kid's drawing of a mop sword inside his locker. And now it's your turn. Would you have leaked the evidence or trusted the system to find its courage without a spotlight? Did the way the cops looked at me change the questions they asked? Where do you draw the line between justice and revenge in your world? Drop your take in the comments. Argue with me if you need to share the moment you saw a bully shrink under the right kind of light. And if this hit you in a place you recognize, hit subscribe so we can keep telling the stories people don't see until it's almost too late.